So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this installment in our Small Business Spotlight series. My name is Bruce. I'm a business advisor here with the Small Business Development Center. And though I haven't, I feel like I've been here forever, particularly post-pandemic. Our guest today is Nicole Simpson, and I want to make sure I get the list right here. So she's the founder and president of Go Fund Your Life, holds a master's degree, MBA, and she is a certified financial education instructor and a chartered advisor in philanthropy. Did I miss anything there?
Nope, I have not added any new credentials since the last time I updated that.
Okay, good. But I'm sure you will. You're always adding new things there, so you're always very busy. So basically, you have your own insurance agency and financial consulting service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else you would like our viewers to know? I know it was a brief introduction there. You and I connect pretty much every month or two with another series that we do, our business clinic series. So, I feel like you're part of my family at this point. Yeah.
Right. We're at least cousins.
There you go. Yes. All right. So with that, I guess we'll just jump in. So how long have you been running your own small business?
I have technically been running a business of my own for 15 years, give or take. This latest iteration is 8 years old, with Go Fund Your Life. So depends on which side of the spectrum you want to start from. But yeah, Go Fund Your Life is the start of the current business that you know me as today.
Okay. So were you still doing insurance, financial services prior to Go Fund Your Life?
Yeah, I owned I owned an agency with New York Life out in Dublin, where I had my own agency there when I first got started. And then I also owned a farmer's insurance agency for several years that I used to learn all of my skills. And then once I felt like I knew enough to do it on my own, I sold that business and then I started Go Fund Your Life right after.
Nice. Okay. So you have just a propensity for self-employment. You like being your own boss.
I do. I like to make the rules. And I like to, I get the chance to really make the business be what I want it to be, and instead of trying to fit into someone else's box.
Nice. What drew you to insurance? I'm always curious because it seems, as an outsider looking at insurance, it seems so, of course, it's regulated. It is so technical. It is so complicated that all of the certifications that are involved in, being an underwriter or being an agent just is so daunting. So, what drew you to such a complex industry?
The truth of the matter is that I was drawn to helping people and being able to provide a safety net for individuals when things got bad. And the truth is, you don't really even think about your insurance agent or your insurance policy until something really bad happened. And that's when you find out if you got the right stuff or if you don't have the right stuff. So for me, I saw so many people in every area of life because insurance touches everything, whether it's somebody falls ill, someone passes away unexpectedly, you have an accident, somebody has a theft, somebody comes in and hacks your account. All these things really fall into insurance. And if you don't have a lot of liquid capital just in your bank account or in your shoebox under your bed, where are you going to go to be able to make things right? So being in insurance, especially on the agency side, provided me a way to be able to literally go out and be the safety net and offer all the help that I possibly could to individuals when times got rough.
Nice. Okay. Something that we talk to clients about frequently is the importance of understanding what kind of problem they're solving for their target market. And very often, and I'm guilty of this myself, having some previous, business ventures, skipping right over that and going to the thing that I want to do with no regard for my target market and the problem I'm solving. So it's interesting that you don't talk about selling products. You don't talk about profit. You were talking about helping people um, understand insurance and have that coverage that they needed. So it really is about problem solving and not about profit. I mean, profit's important, but so I'm glad that you expressed it the way you did. That's important. And I have to say that we have a couple of brokers in our referral list, and you are one of those. And every time I meet with a client and they say, "I talked with Nicole, and she was so helpful. Thanks for making that connection." So you're doing that. You're solving that problem for people because insurance is scary, and it's not like a
You're going to learn about it. No, there's no class on insurance. They don't teach you it in high school or college or anything. You kind of just happen upon it. And so you really need someone who's going to hold your hand through it to make sure they understand what you do and that they can put everything in place, because you just don't know when the bad thing is going to happen. But if it does, you want to make sure that you've got some.
Mhm. Sorry, you are more of a I like to think of you as a business partner for an entrepreneur. You are part of their organization. You may not be on their payroll, but you are a partner in what they do. It's just like your attorney, your CPA, your bookkeeper. You have to have that person in your corner and know that you aren't dealing with it alone. You always do a marvelous job with that. So, as a side note, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing such a great job for our clients. So,
Thank you for
um,
having me as a
yeah,
part of the team over there with you guys.
yeah. um, and I know I just said that you were financial services and insurance. So can you give us a better idea of what products and services that your business provides? Because I know you have education and philanthropy in there as well. So
Sure, sure. So I like to touch all things that have to do with money. And insurance is a financial tool. So when you really think about it, it financial portfolio in the terms of protection. So for our agency, we touch all things insurance from the top of the house down to the bottom. So we literally are starting with individuals with their home, auto insurance, their business insurance, some group benefit planning for small organizations that need to be able to offer dental and vision and some healthcare coverage and maybe some disability plans, things like that. And then we offer all lines of specialty insurance. That's for unicorn businesses. So not your pizza shop, not your coffee shop, not your hair salon, but the thing that you dreamed of late one night and you decided to create a business and no one's ever seen anything like it. That's considered specialty insurance. And that's something that we also do. And we do really, really good with that. And then the philanthropic giving, it came from working with business owners. I became a philanthropic advisor during the pandemic to add on to my credentials because I was meeting so many business owners who were starting to do so well. I meet business owners at the very beginning, at the thought stage, and then being able to work with them for years and years and years. By the time I get to year 5, a lot of times they're coming to me saying, "Hey, Nicole, what can we do now with a tax situation? Can you refer us to a CPA? We're making too much money. We're paying too much in taxes. What can we do?" Well, I typically will sit down with the CPA and have a discussion, and they'll say, maybe the first year they'll tell you to go out and buy a big truck, right? So I've got a lot of clients that are driving Range Rovers because the CPA told them that that was the thing to do so that they could reduce their taxes, because they were able to use it as a deduction because it's a business vehicle. So what do you do the next year? You can't buy a Range Rover every year. What else can you do? Well, philanthropic giving is something that people don't often think about. So if you're already in the community and you're already a business owner and you're wanting to be able to touch and help and do as much as you can, being able to pass that dollar along to an organization that's here in Central Ohio or someplace that's near and dear to you makes perfect sense. But there's no one who's making those connections. So because I started to realize that I had these clients with these situations, I've got a really large nonprofit book of business as well. And they're always saying, "Oh, we're trying to find some help. Who can give us a small donation?" I've been able to connect those dots on both sides with my business owners who are doing really well and the nonprofits. And it's a win-win for everybody because they get their deductions, the organizations get the money so they can go out and do good. And everybody's working in a perfect ecosystem of helping each other and being protected. So that is the latest thing that I've added in, and I intend to grow that a little bit further in terms of helping small businesses start to build out foundations and other ways for them to actually talk about business succession planning and having that philanthropic piece added in when they're thinking about selling their business or passing it on to their family members.
nice. And it's I see a lot of clients who will say that part of their mission, the reason that they're starting a business, is to support some sort of a cause that they believe in. but it's kind of I'm going to donate my profit or a portion of my profit. So it's really good to know that there is somebody out there who can help them take a strategic approach to that. So maybe it's not reasonable for them to do that in the first year or two when they have a lot more expenses than revenue. But at the point where they do need to start managing their taxes more strategically, that charitable contributions can help with that. So that's nice. And then also, we'll tell clients, identify a problem and solve the problem. And again, that's what you did. You recognized that businesses needed this, so you went out and got the credentials to help solve that problem. So you're solving problems left and right,
I am, and I'm also solving my own problem because I just have always had an inherent need and desire to help people. So those things just fit into my wheelhouse where I don't know of a company that I could go and apply to and go and work for that is going to really scratch that itch for me and make sure that I'm always feeling like I'm doing the best thing for all the people that I get involved with.
Nice. And that's a good point. We're always siloed. We have this very narrow piece of the pie that we're responsible for if we're working for someone else, where you can determine the whole thing, the recipe, the kitchen you're working in, flavor of the day. So nice. Yeah. So what motivates you and keeps you passionate about your business?
Say again, Bruce.
What motivates you and keeps you passionate about your business? Because insurance is tricky, and our people not always happy to talk about insurance stuff.
It's the people. The people motivate me because one, I know that you don't know what you don't know. You have no idea what it is that I do and how I can help you. So I'm motivated because I get the opportunity to take the boss, right? When I meet with the CEO, you are the one you've created your own business, right? You're the entrepreneur and you really are just coming to me for what you believe to just be a service. You're checking off a box maybe for a contract. But I get to bring you into my world and help you really understand risk protection and start to have you put on your thinking cap and be always asking yourself the question of what's at risk when I do this? And when I'm able to bring you onto my side of the table around insurance, as you grow your business, everything that you do, you're going to be having a risk lens. And so when you make changes or your business goes into a new direction, you buy a house or you hire a bunch more employees, whatever changes happen, you're going to have that little light bulb that goes off or that little pinch that says, I remember Nicole telling me, hey, what's at risk? Let me think about that. And so because I come from an education perspective with all of my clients, they know enough to be dangerous. And so whenever something changes in their life or their business, they call me immediately. Hey, I don't know if this matters, but we started doing such and such. Hey, I don't know if this matters, but not only do we have a restaurant, now we have a food truck that we run on the weekends. Oh, I don't know if this matters, but now I have a child who was diagnosed with special needs. All of those things do matter and they make a difference. And if you are already thinking that way, then you're going to know when to come to me so nothing slips through the cracks because I don't know when life changes are happening. So for me, I'm just very much motivated by providing the education to the people and really empowering them to do everything they can to button up all of their things and keep them in a nice, cushy safety net. Because this is all the important stuff, and I'm responsible for it.
Right. Yeah, and you address the educational component there, and that's it's one thing to help somebody. You give somebody a fish to eat for a day, teach them to fish to eat for a lifetime. So it's constantly educating them and building that trust so that they know, even if they're not purchasing, additional coverage, a new policy or anything like that, but they know they can come to you. So again, it goes back to you are in their corner and being part of their team, and that trust is so important, and that builds those long-term relationships, and like word of mouth leads to additional business. And I have to say, from a personal perspective, our carrier for our home decided that they weren't renewing our policy for a couple of lame reasons, in my opinion. And I couldn't get my agent to work with me to help me understand exactly what was going on and what my options were. How do I deal with this? And it got to the point where it got tense, and I finally just had to get really terse with them about either you're going to help me with this or I'm simply going to go someplace else, and I shouldn't even need to be bringing it to this point. And then they came through and they started doing what they were doing. But even now, I don't trust my agent entirely. The outcome is fine, but so I think a responsible partner with a homeowner. A consumer shouldn't have left a homeowner feeling that way. They were responsible for doing all of this work themselves. So,
Mhm.
and you were on my list. I was thinking, was
That's
that?
really
Went through our, eventually found out that because of supply chain disruptions and um, disasters, that all the insurance companies, like 50% of their business, they're either raising rates or not renewing policies. And so I always thought that we were being singled out. And anyway, not to get all personal, but
it's it's not fun being an agent right now because of all of those things. And to your point, we're doing everything we can to educate clients so that they see and that they know. All of these companies are doing it. We are being on the forefront of it to say, we know these increases are coming. Here's some things that you can do to avoid these increases. If you've done these things, let us know. So we sent out a big thing in the summer saying, hey, you guys get new roofs in the summer. Have you made these certain renovations? These are some things that can help bring down your premium. We talked a lot about deductibles with our clients, just saying, hey, if you can afford this, maybe we want to raise your deductible. All of these pieces of education long before the renewal came because we knew that the rates were going to go up. We're seeing 25 to 55% rate increases across the board with all companies. So it is definitely a tough time. So I understand exactly what you're going through and you're own. And because you're not alone, some agents are just kind of, nonchalant about it because it's just like, what are you going to do? Everybody's doing it. It's not, there's no way to really avoid it wherever you go. If you get to a new company this year, they're just going to raise your rates, next year. So
Mhm.
it's a very uncomfortable situation, but it's going much better with folks having the information in hand and empowered to be able to make some additional choices before it comes. So you just really have to be ahead of the ball when we
Mhm.
know changes are coming down the pipeline.
And it's a challenge for small business owners because you're so focused on working in the business and doing your day-to-day things that need to be done. So having that long-range view and constantly scanning for future threats, what's on the horizon, and then informing your customers. It's not something that's there's not a price tag associated with that directly. You can't say I'm going to increase revenue 15% if I do this. There's more to it there, and I think that does so much for giving you a competitive advantage and building a solid reputation. You
Yes.
get a sense that all agents are doing this, or is this just a few doing that? Or
Oh, I know for a fact that all agents are not doing it. Many of my competitors, they look at me and they don't understand why I go through the trouble. And it's always been my philosophy since I've got into this business is I never want to have a client contact me about anything. I want to be the one to reach out to them about whatever is coming. If they know something before I know it, or that is the perception, then that's automatically an issue from day one, right? If I say, hey, this is happening, and then you get a letter in a week from the company, you're saying, oh, this is what Nicole told me about. And then, we can work from there, and you know that I'm already being proactive. And that's just always been the way I was taught when I came into the industry, was never allow a client to contact you before you reach out to them on any type of a situation that has to do with premium rate or changes to their policy. So we do that. And then we also do reviews on our policies as well. So depending on what agent stage you're in, you may be on for an annual review or a biannual review of your policies, just depending on where you are. If I have a young family, just got married, just bought a house, you're going to blink an eye and they're going to have a house full of 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a parakeet before you know it, right? Like that's going to happen really quickly, and they're going to be too busy to remember to call you. So those are the time that you need to reach out and give that phone call. You've got young kids that are reaching adolescence, right? If I know that you've got a few teenagers in the house that are just about to be 15 and 16, I'm going to make sure that you're on a more frequent call return because somebody's just got their temps. Somebody's going to be driving a car now. There's all sorts of things. Somebody's going to be out in the backyard playing with their baseball bat and they're going to knock somebody's window out on the next block. And they're going to come over and be very upset. You're going to be calling your insurance company. You may or may not have coverage for that type of damage. So I typically break up everything in our agency by the age and the stage of the customer. Same thing for small business owners. Brand new startups typically have a more frequent touch point because what you start your business with at the beginning of the year can change 10 times by the time you really get into whatever your niche is and what's profitable for you and what actually works. And if you tell me you started off doing one thing and you learned that your business is doing better doing another area, that can make a huge difference on if you have the appropriate coverage, the right amount of coverage, or if you're even in the right policy at all. So people don't realize that. They just say, I've got an insurance policy. Well, your insurance policy may or may not cover your day-to-day operations, and that's why you got to keep the insurance agent in the loop. We do a good job of reaching out to those folks to make sure that they're happy.
So often we'll emphasize business, the need to identify their unique selling proposition. What makes them better than their competitors. And the two go-to are typically quality and price, which is so very difficult to deliver on because consumers don't adjust their expectation because it's a low price. But what you're describing is quality. It's actually caring about your policyholders. And from my experience, it would appear that agents have a tendency to slide into a model where they emphasize sales and then putting out fires, but there isn't that maintenance in the middle, and you are focusing on that maintenance and education and being proactive. Would you agree that's
We're quality, value, and relationship. Those three things matter the most for our agency. And we have two separate channels. Don't get me wrong. Everybody's not touchy-feely. We have a completely separate online, do-it-yourself, 100% self-service agency. So if you do not want me to know about your kids and your grandkids and when your anniversary is, I don't have to be all in your business, but you're going to need to go out to the website and you're going to need to do everything kind of on your own that way. But if folks who choose the traditional route, that relationship is important to us. So we're going to send you the birthday card. We're going to know when your kid graduated. We're going to know when you received an award in the community for being a great business. We want to really keep our ear to the streets and really help you grow so that we can get you to where you need to go as far as your business is concerned and keep you in an ecosystem, right? Because I'm going to know the CPAs and the attorneys and all those folks that I can continue to refer you to so that you can continue to be successful.
Nice. It's good to hear that you're able to just verbalize all of it. You've got it. It's not something that's just a concept that you're aiming toward. It's actually part of your mantra, what you're doing every day. So we touched on what you like about owning your own business. So what do you think is the most significant challenge facing the small business owner today?
Marketing. Probably marketing. I find that business owners are doing a great job with their business and their idea, and they know exactly what they want to do, and they have no strategy around introducing that business to new people every day.
Agreed. And so often I think that is a product of we're born consumers, and it's what we do for most of our lives. And then when we're suddenly become a small business, how do we make that shift to thinking like the business and not a consumer? Because brands are everywhere. Our Coca-Colas and Pepsis and Nikes and our Walmarts. We don't think that there is strategy and research and long-term, short-term planning behind all of that, and that it evolves over time. So it has to be intentional. Any words of wisdom that you would offer to a small business in terms of how they approach marketing and make it work for them?
Well, I'd say for sure, make sure that you can accommodate whatever your marketing strategy is. I made a major mistake when I launched Go Fund Your Life in that I went out and bought a huge radio ad package. I had probably 100 spots coming on the radio every day. So yeah, you were hearing about me and people were ringing my phone off the hook. And I didn't have the capacity to support all of the calls that were coming in. I literally could not keep up, which is a great problem to have in theory But when all the customers are like, they can't even call us back. They have a wait list that's 10 miles long. I didn't have the capacity to be able to respond in that way. So make sure that when you are doing your marketing strategy, that you do it based on what your capacity is to handle if you really do knock it out of the park, right? Every marketing endeavor isn't going to knock it out the park. Not going to have your phone ring, but plan as if it would and make sure that you are prepared to accept that when it does come through and look at all sorts of different avenues to be able to get your business introduced to someone new each and every day. That's so important. Even if you don't have a dollar and all you do is get on social media and introduce yourself every day and say, here's who I am and this is what I do, that's better than you just sitting silent with no customers and not earning any.
Hmm, good advice. So you had a lesson in scalability in 48 hours, right?
Buddy, oh, buddy. Yes, I did. And we had an 800 number. And so we were going to like model ourselves after select quotes so people could call in and it worked. But I needed to have a call center in India to be able to respond to all the phone calls that came to my office. We were not ready. It was a win in that yes, that marketing worked, but it was a major fail because we could not deliver on the promise.
Ah, scary success story, right? I love
Right.
it. Um, so what do you wish that everyone knew about being a small business owner, before they jump into that pond?
Um, that if you think you're leaving a 9 to 5 because your one boss gets on your nerves, you should know that you're about to hire hundreds of other bosses, right? Because every single new customer potentially is in position to kind of dictate how you operate, right? You work for each one of those individual folks, so you kind of trade that in. I don't know that everybody realizes that part, and sometimes it's why it's not for everybody. It's easy to know what your one person or your one issue is each and every day. As a business owner with, however many clients you have, none of them are going to be the same. There's going to be something that's different about each and every one of those, and you're going to have to maneuver to be able to meet and match however that individual is, down to a restaurant. Somebody don't want onions, somebody don't want mayonnaise, right? So you're never going to be able to just rubber stamp it. You have to really be fluid and able to answer to a lot of different.
Okay, good advice. Thanks for that. Um, what have you found to be the most surprising thing about running your own business?
The number of hours
Okay.
that you put into business. I mean, it can be extraordinary, and you really have to look at what your true balance is in life. Because if you're truly doing something you love and you're passionate about, you won't even care about those hours, right? You won't even care. But if you were to really compare apples to apples between when you worked a job where you clocked in somewhere, you're going to be putting in a lot more hours in your own business, especially in those early years, than what you were when you were working.
So, one of our old advisors used to say, if somebody asks a small business owner what hours they work, the correct answer is always all of them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. 'Cause you're laying in bed at night like, oh my God, did I send that email? Shoot, did I remember to do so and so? You know what I mean? Like, so you're just doing so much. Your mind always works.
Yeah, always working.
Mhm.
Um, so in terms of characteristics, from your individual characteristics, what do you think an individual needs to have to be a successful small business owner? Is it just the ability to work long hours? Is there more to it than that?
Definitely more to it than that. You really have to have a defined vision and a plan laid out in front of you. I stress this the most because if you don't have a vision and a plan already laid out for you, at least for your first 12 months, you have no way of knowing if you're successful or if you're failing. So you need to have some tangible things in a plan that are going to be levers to let you know that yes, you are actually moving the needle forward instead of just running in circles, right? That's extraordinarily important. So you know when to hold them and you know when to fold them, right? It's okay if it doesn't work out, if you have to go in and change the plan, or if you have to go in and get help. What I see so often is people are just flying by the seat of their pants. They never had any kind of written plan. They just kind of had an idea that only they knew. And then they say, oh my gosh, I need help. I need help. And then they sit down in front of the helpers and they can't even tell them what the plan is and where they are. So you can help the folks who are around you who are professionals at being able to assist you by having something for them to work with and bringing that to the table. And just really having something mapped out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to fit into some fancy business one-on-one business plan, but it does need to be tangible and say, hey, by this time, this is what I expect to have. Here's where I'm expecting to go. This is the amount of customers. This is how I intend to do that. And at the very least, you know where you need to go back in and fix it or tweak it or whatever. But just always have at least a working idea of a plan when you go into it.
Mhm. Good advice. And I think of a client that's a restaurant, and they were a small restaurant, family run, doing really well. And they had the opportunity to move into a larger space, and they jumped on that opportunity. And suddenly they have, 4 times as much seating capacity. They're hiring new employees, doing remodeling, offering carry out. And they came to me and they said, we're having trouble making payroll. Like, but they said they didn't understand this because they were making so much more money now, but nothing was measurable, nothing was tracked. So they saw the big picture. As we've got, $400,000 in revenue this year, but there was no concept, that there was a plan behind achieving that and controlling the costs. So you always look at the SMART objectives. Is it specific and measurable and achievable, relevant, and timely? And without that, you have no sense, no way to measure anything.
And I know it's hard, you go to these classes and they're like, oh, make your SMART goals. And, and then you can get into it and make it really, really regimented. And if you can't do that, that's okay, but do something, because when you do call up a Bruce or somebody from SBDC or any organization, guess what? You're going to do yourself such a huge favor by having something to be able to show and say, well, here's where I think I am. Give them something to work with, because if not, then they're literally starting in the middle of all the chaos. And that's the last thing you want to do, is to try to patch things together when things are kind of already all over the place and working backwards. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's a
see
good
it all
point.
the time, Bruce.
It's the small businesses are often these rubber life wraps, and they're just covered with patches, and they can't tell which ones are leaking. So, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you need to stop and dry dock this, figure out what are we working with here? Is this worth salvaging? Do we need to start over? And that's tough because we invest so much of ourselves in a business.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. They call me and they say, I've got this contract, and here it says that I need to have $5 million worth of liability in order to get it. And so I came to you so I can have that. And I'm like, that's great. It's $10,000 for that. Well, I don't have $10,000. Well, did you did we think about all of these things, and did we line all this up, and what was the plan? How much revenue do you expect to generate from this contract? Will it be enough to be able to put you on a payment plan so that you can pay this back? What, I don't know. I have no idea. Well, this makes it really, really tough. And now you don't know how you're going to pay for the insurance. If you don't have the insurance, you can't get the contract. And now I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place because I don't have a way to be able to help you. um, and then guess what? You've been doing business for 5 years and you never had any insurance anyway. That makes it 10 times harder to get it, because the insurance companies are like, well, what you been doing this whole time? How come you haven't had any insurance? And so they view you as even a higher risk at that point. So when someone comes to me like that without the plan and all of that, I have to charge them a higher rate for basically specialty or higher risk insurance a lot of times, because they're being penalized for operating without the coverage.
Mhm. And the same applies to lending. And so often a business will need a loan, and it's the same thing. They've not been managing their expenses for that 5 year period, and no concept of, no business plan. So there's nothing to compare it to. No sense that there is any intentionality involved in what's happening. So a lender will say, no, we're not comfortable with that. So it's so
Yeah.
important to be intentional and have a plan. And like you say, it does not have to be a 100-page business plan, but something that you can measure success or lack thereof against.
Right. That is correct.
So on the subject of managing expenses and giving yourself that structure to run a successful business, what do you use? Do you have specific software? Are you a QuickBooks kind of gal? Do you have a bookkeeper who handles that for you? Do you have a CRM platform? Is that provided by your carriers? What's that look like for you?
So I'm an independent broker, so my carriers don't provide me with anything. So I have everything from the ground up. But as I shared it earlier, I owned a farmer's agency where everything was provided. So it was great for me because everything that was provided for me at my farmer's agency, I learned enough to be able to come out and purchase it myself or put together my own plan. So yes, my CRM, my customer relationship management system is great. It does help me to manage cash flow, premiums, and so I kind of know where things are. We actually don't use QuickBooks. We use Wave. So Wave is free. It's very close to QuickBooks, and we also have a CPA and a bookkeeper who helps us to manage and look at things. So we're not paying our folks to talk to us every single day, but I do have someone who oversees some of my payroll expenses because I do have a couple of employees and some contractors, and someone who looks at our projections for year over year. So we kind of know what we're expecting to have in terms of income based on the times of the year that we have. And I go to that CPA and the bookkeeper to look at those things prior to making any new purchases. So any new expenses, anything like that, I'm going and talking to them and saying, hey, I'm looking about adding this new software. I'm looking at this new marketing tool. This is how much it's going to cost us overall. How's that going to fit for us in terms of profitability for the year? This is what I think it's going to generate. Where are we at? And I really let those folks handle it because they can see all the numbers and they can make it make sense. Also, they can let me know if it makes sense to make that purchase in a certain tax year, if I'm looking for a certain level of deductions based on some things. And they'll tell me, like right now, it's tax planning season. So they're saying, hey, based on where we are, this is about where you're going to be in terms of your tax liability come next year. Here are some things that you can do to reduce that. And some of those things might be, let's go ahead and buy that new marketing system, or let's go ahead and make this other purchase. They haven't told me to buy the Range Rover yet, but maybe.
If we see you rolling up in that Range Rover, then we know you got that advice.
I hit the tax bracket that required me to get the big truck.
That's all great, and 3 points I think are so important to really point out for anyone watching it. First of all, is be willing to invest in your business. An Excel spreadsheet is not the way to manage your books. It can work as a start, but that's not how you build a business. You need to be able to invest. And Wave, Zoho, FreshBooks, there are those low and no cost platforms out there that can work really, really well. And having someplace to keep track of your customer information is vitally important. You can't manage what you can't see, and it's just not going to work. The other is recognizing the value of your time. So your time is worth more than bookkeeping. So it's important to bring somebody in to let them do that. It's what they do well. And it allows you as an executive and a business owner to focus on more important things, that are critical to the business's success. And then the other is, it's so important to use your financial information to help you make informed decisions. If we don't keep track of our finances, if we're not, up on our bookkeeping, if we're not looking at our expenses, when it comes time to make a decision, there's really no strategic way to do that. I think of your financial statements as the vital statistics for a business. So you periodically, you're going to pop into the doctor and you're going to, run some tests, weigh you, take your temperature, see how you're doing, send off for a nice a blood panel there to make sure your cholesterol's not skyrocketing. The same thing for a business. And if we don't have that analytic, diagnostic tool at our disposal, we just make a decision and hope for the best. And if it's not, so
numbers don't lie. there's a very fancy piece of software that I really, really would love to have integrated into my business, but it is very, very pricey. And every time, we bring it up, my CPA is like, I don't know. And especially because I don't have any proof that it's going to increase my bottom line. I have no proof. I like it. It's pretty. It's got bells and whistles and it twinkles, but I really don't know if it's going to make me any more money. It's going to be fun to use, but I don't know if it's going to actually make profit. So, and my CPA has a relationship with me to say, hey, girl, now listen, we are not chasing things just because they're bright and shiny. That's not what we're doing. So this is where you said you wanted to land in terms of profitability for this year. If we make this purchase, it's going to swing us off of that. So she
Mm.
still lets me obviously make my decision, but she helps remind me of what I said I wanted to do and really keeps me on the straight and narrow. And I really appreciate her.
This kind of brings a degree of objectivity to the situation that we don't always, as individuals, because this business is a child. We want to give to it and make it better and more, and so something we don't tend to think about. So what she's basically saying, or he is basically saying, it's either the big truck or it's a software, but right.
Right.
With that truck.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, thinking back to, you long before you owned a small business, how does the reality of running a small business compare to your expectation? I know you mentioned earlier about working longer hours. Do you find it more or less rewarding than you had expected? Did it take longer? Was it faster? More expensive?
I think it's really more rewarding for me than what I ever expected, because when I thought about it, I had only really thought about me and the people that I was going to help. But what I realized is the people who are connected to me also benefit from me owning a small business. Part of it is because I've got flexibility, right? I just told you that when I leave here from this interview, I'm going to be driving out of town to go to a pageant at my son's college. If I had a 9 to 5, there's no way I could just, hey, I'm calling off so I can just go take a ride up to my son's college. So I've got the flexibility. If somebody's got an emergency, I can probably be the one to jump in and do that. And because I am a regular everyday girl, I grew up right here in Columbus, Ohio. And I have a similar background as so many of my peers. I think that it helps people to see, like, oh, wow, if she could do it, I'm certain that I can do it. Because I own a business, but I'm not a genius, right? It's not rocket science for me. I'm not special in any way other than I just set my mind to deciding to do something and press forward with it. But, when it comes to, we all went to Columbus City schools, we all lived in the same neighborhoods, we kind of have the same DNA and makeup. So it sets me up and puts me in a position where I know that people look up to me and people feel like if they come to me, I can be an assistance to them in many different things. So I just get to wear a lot of hats, get to help a lot more people than just the clients that I expected to help. So overall, hands down, even with the down times, I am very happy that I chose to become a.
Yeah, you've talked me into it, man. I need to go do that. I don't know the hours. I just don't know about those hours.
Right.
So we talked about your competitors early on. What you're doing and being proactive and scanning and keeping your policyholders informed. Any sense of what your competition isn't doing that you think that they should be doing? Is it more than that?
I think my competitors are. I think my competitors have an opportunity to tap more into some of the technology that's available. Right now, when we look at our customer correspondence, we have a 30% increase in customer text messages to our office this year alone. I know traditional agencies don't have that capability, but now people are more likely to respond and communicate with you via text than even an email, to be honest, because they can send you back a really quick response and it's top of mind. And then there's a lot more faster insurtech opportunities that are out there for individuals to take advantage of. And I think that my competitors could really leverage a lot more of the technology that is more suitable for the next generations that are coming, right? Because they're just used to having things at their fingertips, like communication and action.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's something so small, and I do see it. Clients will say, "Hey, can you text me such and such?" And no.
Mhm.
But that's what people do. It's fast, it's instantaneous, it's in the palm of your hand. So you're doing that.
Yeah.
Was it a challenge? Was it something you guys just integrated? Was it easy, or
We when we set up our 800 number and our great big launch with all of the folks, we purchased a communication system that was probably a little larger for us at that time, but we grew into it. But we did it with the intention of being able to have not international, but national texting capabilities, so that those text messages come into our office phone, they get coded directly to the CRM, and they go into everyone's file, and then notifies whatever agency producer or whoever is supposed to be working with that client that the message is in. So it all works together. So it was very easy for us to do it. We just hadn't necessarily initiated it. We're sending out, hey, it's time for your review. Can you schedule via email? And that stuff's ending up at the bottom of the pile. We send you something in the mail. You're going to take the mail out and lay it on your kitchen table for 3.5 weeks before you either decide to finally trash it, or maybe you'll open it. But the text message comes, you're like, oh, okay, hey, great. If I gave you a calendar link in the text message, click, and they're immediately booked. You see them pop up on the screen just like this for a virtual appointment in a week. So it's just fast, and it works a lot better than really anything else.
Nice, right? And I have, yes, when my dentist sends me the text message to confirm my appointment, I click the C button and I'm done. But if it's an
Yep.
email, it's going to be buried in all of the junk that I try to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Yeah, you're ahead of, yeah. Wow, you're 100 years ahead of everybody else.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Latanya?
Yes, I apologize for being late.
No, it's okay. Sure.
Could you tell me the name of that program or that CRM that you were sharing with us, Ms. Nicole?
Yeah, that's it's called Agent CRM.
Agent CRM? And is that for anybody, or do I have to be an agent in real estate or just in general?
They do offer platforms for different types of agencies. So people who are doing consulting, real estate, insurance, they've got lots of different opportunities and platforms. The Agent CRM is what we use.
Agent CRM, okay.
Yeah. So
Thank you for that.
yeah, and you need to have a Zapier account where you can connect Zappier, where you can connect your CRM to your phone system and any other integrations. If you use a MailChimp or any of that, there's a third-party company that will connect all those things together, and they all integrate with Agent CRM. So all of that works.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's awesome, because Calendly doesn't do that. Calendly, unless it pops up on my calendar like an hour before the appointment, and I'm like, I would like that to be notified prior to, the same day that they do it. So that seems a little more efficient. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks, Nicole. Startup capital is always a big issue for businesses. So how did you manage that? How did you launch your own agency? Did you get a loan? Did you self-fund? Did Santa leave you a present?
Oh, Santa, I kept leaving cookies and writing letters, and he has not come through yet, but we are just about around his season, so we'll try it again. I self-funded when I started my agency, and I mean, to be honest, for my type of business, self-funding doesn't require a ton. I made sure I had enough personal income saved up to be able to manage myself for 12 months. So that was really what my self-funding was. Licensing and systems and things like that were really minimal expenses. So I don't have a ton of overhead. My largest expense is generally going to be marketing. And that's where almost 80% of my expenses is going to some type of marketing.
Okay. And I was going to ask about that. How do you manage marketing? So you do have a substantial budget then for marketing relative to your revenue.
Now I do. And so it's a percentage. So we literally know that if we bring in X amount of revenue in first quarter, then in second quarter, we're going to use a percentage of that revenue that's going to go towards the marketing budget for the next thing. So it's literally just rolling over by percentage. Now there's a threshold. If we really knock it out of the park first quarter, we don't spend 100% of that budget, but we know what number we're shooting for. And that's really important. So sometimes we don't make enough, right? And sometimes we make too much, or we make more than what is required for that marketing budget, but we know exactly where we're hitting. But there is a minimum percentage that we spend on marketing each month because of the way that we choose our marketing. We do a ton of internet marketing, tons of internet marketing, not necessarily social media, but lots of search engine optimization marketing. So we want to be at the fingertips of the folks who are looking for our service, right? People get on Google every day and search cheap insurance. I need liability. I got the contract. They said I need it. So we're paying for the marketing that's going to get us directly in front of that client. And the more money we put there, we get in front of more of those folks faster. And that's really it. We're very, very conscious about making sure that we cut that out. That's the number one thing that we cut out before we pay ourselves, right? Because you always hear about pay yourself first, pay yourself first. Paying my marketing budget is like paying myself because that's going to be my future income. So before I take any salary, that marketing budget gets filled for that.
Great piece of advice. And I remember in college, one of my instructors made a really big point of understanding that what most businesses will do when there's any kind of an economic downturn or a challenge, the first thing they'll do is cut marketing. And they're doing themselves a disservice because everybody else is cutting marketing. So if you just maintain at that point, you're doing better than your competition. Fundamentally. So making sure that understanding that marketing is imperative, marketing drives business, and without it, what are you doing? You're just hoping that it happens. How did you arrive at your numbers? And do you manage your own marketing, or do you have somebody doing that for you?
I have two marketing individuals. I've got someone that handles all the SEO stuff, and then someone that handles the creatives for it. So they kind of work together in determining what the content needs to look like to be eye-catching and it's going to be high converting. And then someone who knows how to get those things placed everywhere in the right places so we get the clicks and the traffic that we want and what our objective is, right? Because sometimes the objective might not be to buy. It might be brand recognition. It might be, whatever that thing is. So those two people work together on that. I don't touch it. I would tear it up if I were responsible for that. I might have an idea and say, hey, I saw this, or hey, this is trending. Can we do something similar to this? Because this is something that is current affairs, current news. So I may pop in and say something like that. So somebody else controls it. The numbers we come up with now. So November and December is our planning season for the upcoming year. And so we will put together our budget for 2024. So I'm sitting down. I have an unofficial advisory board that's a part of my organization. And so they're a group of some mentors and some things like that. And so we look at everything strategically and lay it out where we were, what areas we want to improve, things we want to get rid of. All of that is kind of happening now. And then we stick to it. We don't change, even if it hurts. If it means that I can't take the vacation, or if it means I can't take the big salary pool at that particular time, we're going to cut all of those things out first to make sure that we stay consistent with the plan that we set up, and we don't make any changes to the plan prior to July, because we want to see 6 full months of execution on that plan to know if it's doing well or if it's not. So we are really, really committed to whatever that plan looks like. We just don't, we don't change it. We're like, oh, we had a bad week, we're going to change. We don't do it. We stay committed so we have enough data to be able to come back and really know what we're looking at.
Excellent. And it goes back to, our chemistry and our science classes back in high school, when we talk about, running an experiment and changing one variable before you run that experiment again. Because if you're changing more than one, then you don't know how to attribute a different outcome. You don't know what caused it. And we do see that a lot. Clients will, okay, well, I'm going to do paid search and I'm going to do postcards, and suddenly business is doing better, but we don't have any sense of why. And have we given it long enough time to see if it has any legs? So I love your determination to stick to that 6 months.
Yeah, they wanted me to go 12, and I agreed for 6 months. 6 months for data, because I can look at the charts and kind of see what things look like based on those kinds of things. So I get it.
You get it.
I didn't like it, but I got it.
You got it. You negotiated. It could have been 3 months. You got them down to 6. So. Yeah, good. So we've got other questions here, but we are at time 1:30, and I know you need to hit the road, even they don't have that Range Rover yet.
Right.
So we respect your time. Thank you for taking time out to do this. You are a busy woman, so you're always on the go, and so I really appreciate sharing your insight and experience with everybody who's going to watch this video in the future, and our friends who joined us today.
So, well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope I didn't scare any business owners away. Come on over, the water's fine.
Yes. And if anyone needs Nicole's contact information, please shoot me an email, bwalters@cscc.edu, and I will share her contact information. And she's one of our favorites. So, thanks again, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Good, guys.
Bye.